It is almost playoff time in the NBA, and you know what that means. Time to give out my predictions for the regular season awards. Now, I have talked at great length about the MVP. I've touched on the other awards, so I'm not going to go over those here today. Instead, I am going to give you my selections for the all NBA teams. If I had a vote, if the voting was up to me, this is where these players would rank. So without further ado, let me tell you who I've got on the All-NBA first team for the 2022 seasons. And this year, I think that the first team should consist of Devin Booker, Luka Doncic, DeMar DeRozan, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Nikola Jokic. And right out of the gate, let me be clear with you all, no, I don't have Embiid on first team, and you know why. But in case you don't know why, let me tell you why. Yes, he and Jokic are both eligible as forwards. However, neither of those guys are forwards. They are both very clearly centers. And while I don't think, positions should be relevant for this award, I think the fact that you have to vote by positions is absolutely idiotic. As long as positions do matter and it is not truly the 5 best players in the NBA at any position, I've got to put Embiid down on second team. So, spoiler alert, he's one of the second team players, in case you didn't already know. And instead, I have Nikola Jokic at the center position. He is my MVP pick. I believe he is the best player in the NBA. He had to be on first team. Likewise, Giannis Antetokounmpo, probably a top 3 player in the league. Unless you're JJ Redick, most people believe that Giannis is one of the 3 best players in the NBA. He had to be here. DeMar DeRozan played some more games than some of the other forwards. He was consistently amazing throughout the season. He fell off a little bit at the end, but was still putting up legit All-NBA numbers after a season of MVP caliber play. He deserves to make the first team 100%. And then you've got Luka and Devin Booker. Now, Devin Booker has been the best player on the best team in the league for the majority of the season. We weren't sure at the start if he was really better than Chris Paul, but after CP3 got hurt and Booker kept carrying them to wins, you've got to put Booker here on the list. You've got to put him at number 1. I think he is more deserving of first team than any other guard in the NBA because of how consistently good both he and his team have been this season. And Luka Doncic, he started the year a little bit slow, a little bit inefficient. He wasn't terrible, but his defense was really sus. Some of his shots weren't falling. But throughout the year, he's really picked it up, and it's really close between him and the guys for the record, all 6 guards I have selected for these 3 NBA teams, all of them could be first team. You could make a case for any of these guys being on first team and any of these guys being on third team. It is pretty close between them. But by splitting hairs, because Luka has carried the Mavs all the way up to a top 5 seed in the West, despite the injury issues on his team with KP being out and then the trade, which some people thought wouldn't work, I am going to give first team All-NBA to Luka Doncic. Next up is the second team, and like I said, I already have Embiid, and I think most of you can guess the majority of these players with him. I've got Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum at the forward spot. I don't think anyone is going to disagree with that unless they would have them higher. I've got Ja Morant and Steph Curry at the guard spot, and you can make a good case for both of these players being ranked on the first team. Steph Curry was leading the MVP race at the beginning of the season. He still had a good year overall, but between injury time and the slump he went in, I've got to knock him down to at least second team, and if you have him only at third team, I really can't blame you. He had a very strange season. Meanwhile, Ja Morant, you can argue, should be first team because, Devin Booker was the best player on the best team in the league, and he made it. Ja Morant was the best player on the second best team in the league. He should also be up there, and my argument against you is this. The Phoenix Suns went 20-2 this season, I believe. Might be 18-2. They won 95% of their games without Ja Morant. He was not as integral to the Grizzlies' success. I said the Suns there. The Grizzlies, the team Ja actually plays for, Ja was not as integral to their success as Devin Booker has been for the Phoenix Suns. Yes, they have done pretty well without Booker as well, but we've just seen Devin Booker really step up and carry this team in multiple big moments throughout this year, especially when Chris Paul was out. We just haven't seen the same thing with Ja Morant. I do not at all subscribe to the narrative that Ja is somehow making the team worse, and that's why they have a worse record with him than without him. But at the end of the day, he just doesn't seem to have the same impact on his team that Booker does or that Luka does, so I could not put him in the first team. And for Kevin Durant and Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant's basically just missed too many games for me to put him over DeMar DeRozan, even though you can argue Kevin Durant has been better this season, and I'd probably agree. And Jason Tatum just started the season playing like crap. Like, people are trying to put him at the MVP race here at the end, and it's laughable because he's not at all in that race. He has been absolutely amazing since the All-Star break, but can we please not forget that for the first 2 to 3 months of the season, Jason Tatum played like absolute garbage? Like, this man was the worst, he was statistically the worst volume shooter in the NBA for the first 2 seasons of the year. Efficiency-wise, first 2 seasons. Can I talk? The first 2 months of the season. I'm tired, guys. But look, Jason Tatum was a brick at the beginning. Okay, he was shooting atrocious percentages from the field to start the year. It was a big part of why the Celtics were not doing well. And I would say that for the first 2 months of the season, Jason Tatum wasn't even the best player on his own team. It was Jaylen Brown. So, yes, Tatum has been incredible lately. He's been a superstar for the second half of the season. He does deserve to make second team, but I can absolutely not put him over DeMar DeRozan on the first team when DeMar was playing at an MVP level for most of the year, and Tatum only did it for about half of the year. Finally, we have the third team, and starting with the center, I have Karl Anthony Towns. I think he is the pretty clear choice here, having probably the best season of his career on by far the best Minnesota Timberwolves team he's been the best player on, because remember, 2018, Jimmy Butler was the best player, not Cat. Cat has led this team to the playoffs at long last. They have a good coach, they have young players playing well together, and Karl Anthony Towns is at the center. He's a phenomenal scorer, his defense has improved, although he is still a lackluster defender to say the least. He has improved, he's a good passer, incredible shooter. Everyone knows who Karl Anthony Towns is. You know he's not on the level of Embiid or Jokic, and it's a shame because he really is a historically good offensive center in his own right. He just happens to be the third wheel behind those guys, and as a result, I only have him on the third team. Then I have Chris Paul and Trae Young as the third team guards. Chris Paul missed a decent amount of time this season, so I had to bump him down, and Trae Young has been absolutely phenomenal. I think you can argue he's been a top 10 player in the NBA this season. However, his team's just bad. And I know it's not mostly his fault. They've had a lot of issues. Clint Capella really fell off. They've had weird stuff with John Collins going on. A lot of their role players haven't been playing well. But at the end of the day, if you are supposed to be a superstar, top 10 player in the league caliber player, your team should not be in the play-in tournament when they are all healthy for the most part, because they've had a mostly healthy team by 2022 standards, and they really should have done better than they did. So some of the blame does have to go to Trae, and I can only put him at the third team. And finally, for the forwards, I have LeBron James and Pascal Siakam. LeBron has been very, very good this season, although he's been very up and down with just how good he was. There were times where he looked like a top 5 player again, and there were times where he just kind of looked like an aging star, like he is. He's been slow on defense at times, atrociously slow on defense at times. His shooting has been very good this year, but he hasn't always been able to take over games like he used to, although likewise, there are many games where he has done just that, where he has gone out and dropped some 50 bombs, had some big 30 or 40 point games, some huge end of game quarters, hitting big shots. Sometimes LeBron looks like the LeBron of old, and sometimes he looks like the old player he really is. So I put him here at the third team because I just don't think the way he has played has been better than what Kevin Durant or Jason Tatum did this year. Meanwhile, Pascal Siakam was the hardest player for me to choose for this list because there were several other guys who maybe could have broken in. If we're just ignoring positions entirely, Zach LaVine had a case for third team, both Gobert and Donovan Mitchell had a case. If Draymond Green had stayed healthy the whole season, he would have almost certainly made this third team over Siakam, but ultimately I had to give it to Pascal, who had pretty easily the best season of his his career. He put up around 24 points a game on almost 50% shooting, along with 8 rebounds and 5 assists. He played pretty good defense, and overall, he was one of the 2 clear best players on this Toronto team who surprised many people with a second half surge and got themselves firmly in the playoffs as the 5th seed, and much of that came as a direct result of Pascal Siakam and his phenomenally improved play. So, to go over this all again, first team, Devin Booker, Luka, DeRozan, Giannis, Jokic. Second team, Curry, Ja, KD, Tatum, and Embiid. And the third team, Chris Paul, Trey, LeBron, Siakam, and Karl Anthony Towns. That is my list of all NBA selections this season. I hope you all agree with them, but if you don't, please feel free to leave a comment and tell me why I am wrong. Just try not to be too mean about it, I'd really appreciate it. And thank you all so much for watching.